All right, so we'll do 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to Nat Daddy. We have another amazing interview. This time I was managed to double up on the creative talent for Dead Romans. Once again, I'd like to thank, we got Nick every time, Marinkovich back. Thank you again, artist for Dead Romans. And this time we have, luckily, the author or the writer, we have Fred Kennedy. Welcome to the show, first timer Fred Kennedy.
Thank you. I prefer Auteur.
Oh,
Is what
okay.
I like to
Oh,
go by.
tour. Okay.
Auteur.
Okay.
Auteur.
I know last time I let Nick talk a lot about it and give his kind of interpretation and description of the story. So this time you get first tabs on it. So jump right into it, kind sir.
It's one of, if not the most brutal and important defeats the Roman Empire ever took in the fall of 9 AD. It's dark, it's terrifying, it's horrible, and we decided to put a love story in there.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the story too much here, how do you guys know each other? Did you? I know that Nick kind of jumped into a little bit last time, but let's hear your side from it and see if it's accurate.
We met at a con.
Yeah.
And I tried to like soft sell him on an idea, and I was terrified because Nick's really good. And that's always how it is. It's like when you're at a con, you're always terrified of the good artists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was terrified. And then I sort of like gauged his interest in an idea. And then later on, like a coward, I sent him a message on the internet to see if he'd want to work on a story. And I didn't know this, but I've learned this from interviews that we've done together. He was listening to a podcast about Rome when I asked him to do a story about Rome. And it was very serendipitous, and that is how it all came together.
And that is exactly the version that I got from Nick. So
Yeah.
even the
It was true.
even the
Yeah.
podcast part. And
Yeah.
funny thing too about, like you said, being a coward, reaching out on the internet. That's how I got the first interview actually for this. I commented when the book came out that I saw the post and said, "Oh, I like your book a lot," and Nick reached out. So that's awesome. So,
Good.
That's my main form of communication. So
Yeah.
it was ideal.
right.
We're constantly on Facebook Messenger sending like, I would say about a third of it is just nonsense. You sent me that clip from Barry the other day, which is very funny, by the way. Very funny show. Yeah.
So are you in Toronto as well then? Or are you in Canada? I see you got a Nordiques hat on there. So
I do. I got a Nordiques hat on. Yeah, we both live in the GTA.
Mhm.
And I live east and he lives west. Actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
East and west we bring it together.
We come together in the city, you know.
Well, I'm in Winnipeg, right in Manitoba, so I'm the official. I think that's the official name of Winnipeg. At one point was Gateway to the West. So
yeah. Dude, I'm on my radio show is syndicated at Power 97 in Winnipeg.
Oh, is it really?
My radio start at Power in the early 2000s. Well, yeah, years and years and years ago. I love Winnipeg. I was very upset that the Golden Showers got past them. I was not happy about that game at all. I expected the Jets to crush them. I did. I really did.
Yeah, they. I don't know what happened. They just kind of crapped out, kind of like the Raptors did. The same thing.
Yeah.
But that's good. If you're such a Winnipeg fan, then we'll have to get you out here at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I know. My parents used to live in St. James, like right by Deer Lodge.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big fan. Sergeant Sundays all the time, buddy.
Oh, there you go. Very nice. Okay, if you guys ever come to the city, that's what we'll be hosting a live interview from Sergeant Sundays then. So
for sure, we'll make it happen.
All right, so enough bromancing each other here. Let's jump into your book here. Issue 2, it picked up right after the first one ended. Whoever wants can kind of recap issue 1 and that. I know Nick does it a little bit more elegantly than Fred so far from what I've heard, but again, I can appreciate both sides. So whoever wants to do it at the same time, go for it. You're the team here.
Do you want to go? You do one. You do one. I'll do 2.
There you go.
What we're doing the recap of 1?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, okay. Issue 1 finds us. It's our introductory setup where we're met with the Roman legions as they enter the Teutoburg forest. And encounter their first ambush. And we're introduced to Arminius, our, would you call him our lead or
Yeah.
our lead antagonist or both? You know,
Possibly.
which one is he? We don't know. Must read the book, but well, he is our protagonist in the story, and he is a Roman general, and yet his origin is with a Germanic tribe called the Cherusci, which he was taken from as a youth many years prior and raised in Rome to be a military commander. Upon going back to Rome, this is backstory, mind you, he witnesses, I guess you could say, atrocities that the Romans commit amongst his people, and he fosters a rebellion amongst them, knowing how to defeat the Romans. And that sets the premise for this story and what would grow to be the greatest, or one of the greatest defeats in Roman history. Is that good, Fred?
That's perfect, man. And I would say a little recap of issue 2 with non-spoilery aspects of it. Issue 2 really gives you some depth as to the severity of the defeats and the brutality that the Romans are now suffering at the hands of the Germanic tribes. And we also get a really great display with Arminius's tactical acumen when he's forced to keep his tribal alliance cohesive, because there's already some cracks that are forming, and it's only through the strength of his will that he's able to keep them together. And there's a really cool, I really love the way issue 2 wraps. We got and this is a credit to Nick, there's not a lot of artists that could pull off artistically and stylistically what Nick manages to do with the last 6 or so pages of issue 2 of Dead Romans. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm just looking at those pages right now, and
you get it. Yeah, there you go.
I get it. I love the artwork from the beginning. That's what drew me into this book. I always preview stuff quite early because I always review it for the shows. But I mean, the artwork definitely drew me in right away. And then the story did too, because I love all kind of historical timepieces. And then when I started reading this, and even like when they were soliciting it, I kind of got like that little glimpse of gladiator feel to it, whereas like the slave that becomes like the leader of the people type of thing, all for revenge. A little bit of like the Game of Thrones things, where there's lots of different weaving of different storylines going on here and that, and like you said, lots of alliances that kind of seem to come together and fracture just depending on what's reactionary to the moment and that. So yeah, it's been great. So do you guys want to give a little bit of spoiler stuff? I'm jumping into the dessert already. I always save this for the end, but since we're kind of going into it already, do you guys want to kind of give a little bit of a spoiler stuff on where it's going to go? Or because I know it historically this is kind of true to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Right. So
we actually, it's interesting that you talk about like a little bit of spoilery stuff. There is some stuff that Nick is working on right now with the big finale, and because there is the thing about the Battle of Teutoburg Forest is there's multiple versions and renditions of what happened, and you're dealing with texts that are thousands of years old. The most reliable, I'm doing air quotes here because like there's the most reliable, the most reliable of these things were written years after. And you've got to really take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. There's a version of the battle that was where it was one giant ambush and that was it.
Right.
And then there's versions where it was like a week. And then there's versions where it was like 4 days. The 4-day version is what we stuck with. But there is, according to the most accepted versions, there was one massive set piece battle right near the end. And that is going to come. And I am so excited to see it because like we've talked so much about it. And I think that we are kind of doing the opposite. You mentioned Gladiator. Gladiator opens with the giant set piece battle.
Yeah.
We're closing by unleashing hell. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen the artwork for that scene yet then, or?
No, I know what's coming.
Right.
I've seen a lot of of pencils and roughs and stuff, but we've been trading maps and things like that. I think that my biggest fear, and stressy point with a book like this is that you're gonna have people that are gonna be like, actually, that's not what really happened, you know. And it's like, well, what version are you talking about,
well,
man?
yeah.
There's so many versions, and I know that I took pieces from some versions and some from others in a way that would service the story to make it compelling and dramatic. And I really love the way it all comes together.
So basically you Americanized it.
I wouldn't go that far. I took the parts.
You took American history and you took all the nice pretty parts.
And then one of the guys like, I'm doing this for America, and he's got an American flag as he charges into the breach, you know. That's how it's gonna end. That's the big finale.
So before you wrote this book, like, were you a fan of this time period? Like, what made you decide to do this? Like what? How did you get into this? Like, is just something you had as a passion for, or you've done work before like this? Like, you've other work with Roman stuff, or?
So where I grew up in Belgium, there was a lot of like Belgii villages, and there was one I remember going on a field trip to one, and there was like a recreated Belgii tribal village right next to a massive dig site, and I was only 9 years old, and I didn't really grasp what it was. That was like the depth of what it is that you're looking at, and they've got like the mosaic tile floors, and then they've got like recovered weapons, and then the recreation of this is what it would have looked like if it was in its prime condition. This hill, there was a big battle fought right here with Julius Caesar, and these are names you know,
right?
But you don't have a sense of depth of what you're really looking at because you're just a little kid. And so I started reading Asterix and Obelix comics like when I was really little.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you guys have any connection to that? Like, is that I remember Asterix and that, but I didn't know if that was within that same time period, because I know that's a long period of the Roman times there. So does that fall in that same time period?
Sort of. It kind of does. Like,
pretty close. It's Caesar's.
It's Caesar. Yeah, and they borrow from this, and they borrow, like, it's a little kid's comic, but. Right. I think that a lot of people get dismissive about stuff like that because there's this inaccuracy, but you're planting a seed of learning and a desire for knowledge in these little kids, because I honestly do wonder if I would have pursued these things in terms of like reading and documentaries and books and reading the Gallic Wars and all those things. Like, would I have ever had an interest in that stuff if I hadn't developed a cartoony interest in it from a child's perspective?
Well,
you know?
I think from anybody that's like within our generation and older, definitely not younger, a lot of our stuff came from cartoons, like especially things like Looney Tunes. You know, Looney Tunes, you had like all your opera stuff on there, all your history stuff and like that, where it was like real references in that. So a lot of us start off from there, or even like things like or Hercules cartoons or Robin Hood cartoons. Don't you start off there and kind of branch off to that as you got older, right? So I think a lot of kids or a lot of young people nowadays, they don't get that. You know
what else it is? Yeah. I talked about this once with Kalman Andruszowski. He actually had the same opinion, and he was saying how when we grew up, nothing was on demand. You know, it wasn't on demand. Things were just on TV, and there was times where there wasn't anything I really wanted to watch on TV, but I have a passing interest in Rome and medieval warfare and all that. And you would have like you'd have the Learning Channel when it was still the Learning Channel, and Discovery and A&E, and you'd have all these channels that were just airing all these documentaries all the time. And it was almost like a passive tuning ability to learn, you know? So
it's like learning by osmosis.
Yeah.
And that's what I do around here. Like when I'm not doing things like with you guys and that, my TV's on in the background just on YouTube. And it'd be like YouTube historic videos, like stuff like this. So again, you just kind of learn it. And when you learn from shows like that, and like you said, every few years, there's like a new version of that same story popping up because they're just discovering new stuff for that, right? So
I often think about that, how you can only what's a so-called reliable source, like when we look at, we have all of Caesar's journals, and you could say, wow, that's super reliable, but he wrote them. He presented this campaign in the way that made him look really amazing. And when it comes to the Teutoburg, well, we have, the entire army was annihilated. So what are the accounts are from the odd survivor who happened to come down, and that's how it's been passed down for 2,000 years. you're not going to, you only have so much accuracy, and the rest you really have to fill in with something, your imagination, you know?
Okay. So you guys got the idea together. How long before, like, say you guys decide we're going to do this project till you saw the book hit the shelves?
It was a while.
Yeah, I know there usually is.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
But it's I think for me it felt longer because I've never done this is my first big imprint book. Like I've done so many indie books, like so many, but never anything on this scale, and it's intimidating. And I obsess about every tiny little silly thing because I don't understand what I should be obsessing about and what I shouldn't be obsessing about. But I remember when I first had the pitch pages in hand, I was like, I feel like I've got a real book. Like, I think that's what I was saying. Like, this is like a real comic. I think I said that to you. Like, I sent you like goofy, emotional text messages when I got the actual pages. I'm embarrassing myself. I got so schmoopy about all of it.
So did you have more work lined up in the future already before this book hit the press, or have you got more projects because of this since the 2 months it's been out, or?
Not yet. No, I have a book with Blizzard that's coming out.
Oh yeah.
But that's all like there's a lot of contract jargon around me not being allowed. I can say that I'm doing a book with Blizzard. That's about all I could say.
That's okay. I understand that too.
Yeah.
We put up books here too. I know what it's like.
But I'd like to. I would absolutely love to do more things. Nick and I have we got a lot of hot plans. We got big ideas of what we're gonna do.
Well, I know when I had Nick on last time, I'd asked him if you guys had planned to do a follow-up, and he kind of said there is a bit of an arc 2 coming. But I also know he's going to go back to that original project that he was working on, which my dad told me afterwards. He sounds, really interested in that project. Though, side note there, Nick.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. He said, yeah, that project he was talking about, that sounds really interesting too. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll tell him you said that.
Well, that one it's called The Voyager, and this is
yes,
like
that's the one.
The second volume, and it's actually almost done. I was hoping to get it done prior to Dead Romans, but once we kind of got a schedule going with Dead Romans, I realized I had to focus on that, so I shelved it while we were doing this series, and I'm literally there's like 20 pages left, like less than an issue.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I was going to immediately upon submitting the final page of Dead Romans, finish that one up for next year's release, and then back to Arc 2 if we're ready,
Right.
And I mean, so far Jim Valentino seems very on board. It wouldn't be him doing it personally, but it would probably be Image Central.
Okay.
But yeah, if Fred's on board to start it.
I am. I've been working on it all week, man.
There you go. There you go.
What's the difference like between like the shadow line and the image, like the regular image? So I know there's an imprint. I know almost all these publishers have the imprints nowadays. What makes your book part of that imprint? Like, why not just the regular image stuff?
When I was sending out the pitches before, I had pitched Jim other books, and I had one book that I pitched a few years ago, and he wrote back saying, I want to do this. I need to see if I can if I can. And then that book didn't land. Like he just said, I don't have room in my release schedule to get this done. And then he sent me an email from this other different email address. And so that was the one that I sent this to. And so when I sent this book to him through that direct, because whenever you're pitching through Mid-Century, you're just sort of like sending it off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're sending it off. And I didn't even really know if I was doing something gauche by sending him this pitch to this other email address that I just happened to have, but that's the one I used, and fortunately it all worked. So that was it. I did the shot. If you're asking about like the business aspect of the differences, like as far as I know, it's like the classic original Image deal.
Okay. It's not like it's not geared towards a certain genre or anything like that. It's not like okay.
No. It was we sent it to him, and then he got back right away. He really liked the book. He was really on board with it. He wanted to see where it would go, and then that was just straight ahead. So
okay, I thought it might be something like they were gearing towards, like this was going to be like a historical type of line, or like they would have a segue off for like a horror line or a sci-fi line or something like that, or
just he liked the story, and he thought it was beautiful.
Okay.
So,
as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all the Image imprints, it's just each individual, like, Shadowline is Valentino's, Top Cow is Mark Silvestri's, and they all use the same contract, just under Image Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Image Central, and that's Eric that's all in charge of that stuff. So
okay, that makes sense now. Yeah, I always wondered how that worked, because I know when they start up a new line like that, you hear about it, but when something's already existing, they never really explain why a book goes into there. So that's good to know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I got to be honest with you, when you get that book and it's got that eye and then the shadow line on it, it's just really cool, because I can remember being in junior high when Image launched, and the gloss paper, that was the thing. It was the gloss paper, and seeing that gloss paper on a comic book, like the spinner rack, being like, oh my God, look, this is amazing.
I like Image. Well, again, on my show here, we always push indie books a lot, no matter what. But I like Image stuff because they still put out a quality book, but they haven't raised like the prices like way to the point where it's unaffordable. $3.99 US. Where a lot of stores in Canada, if you're a pull lister, they'll give it to you at US price. That's still not too bad. And you're getting like a full comic, where it's not no short or anything like that. Whereas any other Marvel, DC, even some of the other indies now, for that same size comic and less quality, you're paying $5.99 or $4.99 at least. So that's what's nice about that too, because when you are trying out something new, you don't want to have to take a chance and spend $5-6 on a book that you're not gonna maybe like, right? So lower price definitely gives you more opportunity as well for other people to see it. So,
and we've been really good with like the variant covers that we've been able to put together as well. There's some fantastic covers that are still on their way out. I really love that Sanya Anwar cover on issue 2. The oak leaves and because just the coloring of the oak leaves and the darkness and the shadow, and Mike Walsh's cover, Carrie Nord, and Adam
I have both Nick's covers up on now for issue 2. I also like how in these guys in your books here that it does show you what's coming up for the covers, and a couple issues or a couple pages of the upcoming issue as well too. So that's always nice to see as well. So
it's I'm pretty stoked about the way it all looks. Like Nick and I are sounding really professional, but we get pretty like gushy about all this stuff, like in our private chats about how excited and fanboyish we're getting about all the stuff that's happening. So
yeah. With the covers, I had like a thematic idea for them, like right from the beginning when we were discussing the first one. So I found in this series they came to me really easily. Like I didn't keep going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out what to do. Like they really flowed out.
Now, for your covers, do you try to have like each cover represent something within that issue, or do you just have like a flow going from beginning to end, or is it just whatever these are the covers, I like them, that artwork, that's it?
Definitely something representative of the issue for sure.
Okay.
I definitely wanted to feature like all the principles throughout the 6 issues, and I really like for the A and B covers doing something that's like parallel. So you specifically see that with issues 4 and 6.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the covers for 4. I love the covers for 4. I think they're so good.
Of all the covers for the whole series, the issue 4 covers are your favorite?
It's hard to pick a favorite.
You just said that.
I do love them. Like, I love all of them. I love those 2 in particular, and I think because we bounced around, we talked about the coin idea. Like, do you remember the duality? When you're talking duality, the coins, the covers that we did for 4, they're so beautiful. Like, and the idea of like the 2 paths that you can go, the 2 routes you can take, like and the way Nick did it is just fantastic. Like I don't want to say iconic because everyone says it's iconic, but
right.
they do have, like, in the literal, like the actual meaning of the word, they are very iconic. It's iconography is what it is. It's amazing.
So far from the A and B of 1 and A and B of 2, my favorite is issue A-B, the helmet cover. Just that single helmet there sitting on the spear or the staff there. That to me just sums up the whole Roman War. No, just plain and simple there. Like
that was the goal. So
yeah.
I'm glad you liked it because it was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to encompass the entire series, right?
It's the jawbone that's hanging off the side of the helmet is my favorite part about it.
Just bashed
Yeah.
you, you know, like it's just
and you know what? I added that at the end. Like I had drawn a regular plate, and I was just like, nah, you know, it's just a helmet. You know, like what am I going to do to make this somewhat unique to stand out? And I wanted something in the same shape,
Mhm.
and then like almost you have to like look twice, like wait, what is that? You know, and yeah, there you go.
That's why I love it so much, is because there's depth to it. Like it's almost like a magic eye. You look and then you see it, and then you've got to look again. You're like, oh yeah, and you put it all together.
That's pretty amazing. All right, gentlemen, is there anything else you want to tell anyone who's watching while you got the chance? This is your time, your platform.
Did you want to talk about the horror thing?
The part with the sacrifice, or
no. Like when you was talking about
the horror,
other things, the idea that we've been working on.
Well, I mean, Fred and I think even me, I've been pushing him into this.
You didn't push. It's a great idea.
Okay, we got a spoiler.
No. But every time,
spoilers.
You know, I just have this real affinity with horror right now. And every time I push movies on Fred, he's like, you know, I don't like really, but I think he found this super intriguing. And then he had this idea. I mean, how much do we want to talk about this?
We can talk all about it. It's fine. Or do you not want to talk? We have a World War I.
Do you want to just do a little like a little talk
teaser
about it, and then we can talk about it more off air?
Okay.
We're also both like you know, World War I and II aficionados, if you want to call us that, enthusiasts. Maybe that's a better word.
Hobbyists.
You know, hobbyists, correct? Yeah. And specifically World War I. And we had, you know, this idea. Okay, when we were doing Dead Romans, I really got into the whole the pagan symbolism and trying to. There's an entire part in issue. Did you? With issue 2, where we start with the pagan sacrifices, and as I was doing that, there was this film that I was really inspired by called I forget the name. It's called A Dark Song, which is specifically, and anyone out there who's interested in this subject matter, like, wow, you should check out this movie. It's literally about these two people just performing this one incantation the entire movie, and well, boy, did it ever like draw me in, you know. And then so that subject matter really intrigued me. And then Fred had an idea, like, what about if we do it in like a World War I setting in like the Balkans, where it's like we have a lot to play with because that's an area of the war that no one knows that much about, you know, and you could really get into these like old like Slavic again rituals from that area. And Fred, you want to like throw anything else in there?
I'm listening to you. You're romancing me about it.
Lots of folklore to drop on there.
Yeah, and what else did we say? We were like, I
think I said to him, horse sacrifice, I said like, psychological stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, do you remember the movie The Keep? And Fred's like, keep talking, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like there's a little teaser, like something along that vein.
Yeah, it's pretty. It gets pretty over the top. I don't want to say
that's in Dead Romans, or that's
no, this is another idea.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought
this is
another project. Yeah. So like, man, you took the book to a whole new level.
No. Like Midsommar is like one of those movies that everybody was talking about all the time. But that element of like pagan ritualistic sacrifice with this like completely over the top grotesque turn involving sort of like not proto-Hellenic, but like post-Hellenic ritualized sacrifice in that World War II setting with people that are
World War
almost World War One,
Yeah.
World War One setting of people that are just desperate to do anything, appease anything to help them survive. And it got the original concept is like it's super psychological, like, and there's whole parts of the book where you're left wondering, is this actually happening, or are they just are they envisioning it? Is it real? And I love that sort of thing. And comics is a very unique art form where you can sort of do two stories simultaneously at the same time on the same page without confusing the reader. And that is one of the things that I really wanted to do with this story. And I think that we're going to be at San Diego this summer, and that's one of the things, because we're like, what else should we have with us? And I'm like, I'm very championing, let's get something like this on paper before the show.
In a situation like that, when you guys like are totally creating it and working on it together, going back and forth, do you guys just call yourself the creators, or do you still go by artist and auteur?
I think auteur. I think we're both creating the story
at that point, right?
I'd like to think about us as both creators, you know.
Right.
I want to do thumbs for this book.
I do the drawings, you know.
I'm gonna thumb it. I'm gonna do some thumbs for you, and you're gonna love them. They're gonna be so great.
But it's fun, like when you know, I think Fred and I really hit it off with this series, and we got along really well. And so, you know what, once you're kind of on this wave after that, you know, and you want to keep pushing that as far as we can take it, you know. At least that's how I feel.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
that's cool.
You know,
I got one last question, Fred. What are you drinking there? Because that's a pretty colorful can.
Vitamin P, man.
Oh, okay. It looks like a lifesaver in a can.
I know. Classic
Pilsner. Yeah, I recognize it.
Vitamin P.
Yeah.
You know what the thing was, is because I'm from Edmonton, and when I moved to Toronto, I remember I tried to like get Pilsner because I don't make money. I drink cheap beer. And so like I asked for Pilsner, and they gave me Steam Whistle, which is like, I don't know if they have Steam Whistle out west yet, but it's like a local Pilsner. It's like a beer company here that makes just a Pilsner.
Okay.
And they're like, well, this is a Pilsner. I'm like, it is a Pilsner. It is not the Pilsner. And so, but I will usually just drink Pill when I'm at home.
Okay. I didn't know at first. I thought it might be a Tahiti treat, because just
the
can was so colorful.
Bragging about, I love Tahiti treat. Then the old can where you pop both sides with the can poppy guy. Oh, that's great.
I got a friend in town here owns a collectible store. He brings those in for people. The Tahiti treats from the States.
Treat. That's the good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are your deets there, Nick? Where can people find you if they want to peruse some more of you or your work, or reach out to you?
Oh, regularly. I'm always posting on Instagram and Facebook, Nick.Marinkovich.
Yeah.
And you will see a lot of Roman stuff currently.
Yeah, I have been almost daily, almost if not every second day. There's a lot of stuff going up in there, a lot of new stuff. So definitely check out there.
I am throwing on a lot of the new production work as it's coming on. Like book 6 is just flying off right now, and I'm putting little panels here and there. Not the whole thing, just to give a little teaser, a little tease.
When they can't come here to get their future spoilers, they can get it from you right from the source, right? So, And Fred, where can they find you?
I'm usually on Twitter and Instagram at fearless_Fred.
Awesome.
That's usually the best place to find me.
Cool. All right, buddy. Do check out issues 1 and 2, and I guess again the second print of issue 1, which is out now. I thought it was out next week. I gotta make sure I get one, because I purposely ordered those because again of Nick's covers. All right, gents. I'm thanking you for coming and back on the show, and hopefully maybe for issue 3 and. Maybe we can do it monthly up through 5, 4, 6. We'll see. But otherwise, take care. We'll see you guys all later.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.